Welcome back, everybody. I know that I've been gone for a long time. During the Ukrainian war and the Russian invasion, I had other things that I was focusing on and building businesses and helping Ukraine. But now we're getting back into things. Not that it's so much better in Ukraine, but it's time to get back to the things that I really love, which is talking to people and talking to actors and talking to really interesting people. And Dr. Jon Xue Zhang meets all of those and then 15 more criterias of mine. So after watching an incredible show on Netflix, if you haven't checked that out, please go check out The Brother's Son. It is incredible. We'll talk about that. And my favorite character is Blood Boots, which is played by John. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Alan. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the kind words.
All of them are true. Once kind of your character, I mean, your character appeared almost right away in the show. By the way, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you have not watched the show, please pause this, go watch the show, and then come back. But you've been forewarned. We will be talking about Blood Boots and the rest of the cast. So yeah, you appeared almost right away, right? In kind of the opening scene after it was a one of the things that I'll start rambling in a minute, but or maybe stop rambling. The one of the things that I've loved about the show is that it goes into a counter direction from where you think it's going to go. And even the beginning scene where you have Justin Chan's character basically just baking it. It's a beautiful atmosphere and it's such a different energy. And all of a sudden he is this killer, and you understand that people have a lot of depth to them, and you can be one thing and another at the same time. Same thing with Blood Boots. The Blood Boots came in, and I said, this is an interesting character. And then once the character actually got to LA and you started to understand who he is, I said, I love this guy. And over the, unfortunately, 3 episodes, which I wanted more, but it became my favorite character. So when I wanted to interview folks from the show, I started with John. I did not reach out to anybody else. I wanted to talk to Blood Boots first. After you, we'll get back to the rest of the cast.
I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me on the show and being
Yep.
the first one you reached out to. So,
You.
yeah, it's I gotta say, I think playing Blood Boots was so much fun because the character is he has clearly has a background in something.
Yeah.
But business is business. But when you see him as a person, he's just a big goofball.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's very much who I am. So Blood Boots is who I'm going to be in 10 years' time if I take a few more knocks to the head.
Well, hopefully your life story ends better than Blood Boots. But
I hope so
uh,
too.
yeah, God, that's such a touching scene. We're gonna bring that up a little bit later in the show. I cried. I'm sure lots of people cried as well. It was Yeah, it was one of those scenes where you're so captivated by it, you cannot stop watching. You know what's going to happen, and you don't want it to happen, and you're waiting and hoping for anything that can happen that doesn't allow that end to occur. But anyway, so
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a beautiful show, and you have 65 credits to your name on IMDb, and you've done a ton of stuff as a stunt performer. You've done some things as a producer. You've done some acting as well. But this is your first big acting gig, as we in the acting world like to say it. What was that like for you, being that much in front of the camera as a actor as opposed to more in the background or doing stunts?
So it was definitely an adjustment. Of course, like you said, I've done some acting previously, but it's like this was on a different level, different scale, and it was always my dream to transition from the stunts into the acting. That's something that I always wanted to do. Though, yeah, it was super exciting, but also very daunting at the same time, especially as I'm going to be working with one of my heroes. Like Michelle Yeoh, I mean, she's been a staple in throughout my entire life. You know, I watched all of her films and everything. So when I saw that I was going to work with her, and when I saw the schedule, did you know that the scene where in episode 5 where they, uh, that was my third day on set. So I had
Wow.
been in LA for maybe a week, still jet lagged, and when I saw the schedule, I thought, uh-oh. So yeah, the first day I worked with her, that was what happened. But yeah, it was such an amazing experience, especially as the cast and the crew were just genuinely lovely people. So I
Yeah.
always felt welcome, especially as we were filming in LA and not the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you were jet lagged. You had to be, with different cuts of the scenes, you had to be laying on the floor. So maybe an opportunity to get a little shut eye. I'm thinking so, but yeah, that's it's very interesting. And again, for people who are not, in the acting business, things are shot out of sequence, and third day on set, and you have to shoot the most pivotal scene for your character, and that scene between you and Michelle Yeoh's character. Um, there's so much depth to it, but the depth is based on the history and understanding and the love of the family, and Blood Boots basically accepting that this is what's going to happen because of that. When you haven't been doing this for months, and it's really just having to snap in and have all of that life behind you, that's tough. What was that like, and how quickly you had to really get into that character to have that immense scene?
That is a really good question. Now, from Michelle's perspective, she
Right.
is a phenomenal actress, so she can just turn it on, you know. And for me though, it was the fact that I've seen her in so many films since I was a kid,
Yeah.
and also more recently. Now, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek. So when I'm seeing
Me too.
Michelle, oh, even better. When I'm
Yeah.
seeing Michelle Yeoh and Star Trek, now she's in Star Trek Discovery. I thought these are two
Yeah.
things that I love the most. My gosh! So I already felt that I had this relationship with her because from a kid to being in my mid 30s, it's like she's been in so much of the stuff that I love watching. And so when we were doing that scene, I felt that I had that relationship with her, you know? And, it's wonderful because she's so kind, so nurturing and everything. So, we got to talk a bit backstage as well, just to prepare for the scene. And, she was so wonderful about that, and so support and genuinely, everything they say about her is true. But I think what made that scene so wonderful was just, when we touch heads,
Yeah.
um, I didn't know she was going to do that on the first take.
Wow.
And of course, man, I tell you, I'm not afraid to admit this. I wanted to cry. And it just felt so natural, so organic, and I thought, so in the moment right now. And especially when we move away from each other, I'm just looking her in her eyes, and it's like this is a really beautiful scene.
Yeah, I mean Meisner all the way, just be there with the other person, and that's all you probably have to do at that point. Now, I want to come back to the touching of the heads in a minute, and kind of some of your prep work, but um, the Michelle Yeoh, right, and the actors of that level. As an actor, do you run? Is this a hey Michelle, let's run lines, or is that like no no no? I'll do my work. You do you. I'll just come here and be ready. What is that like?
So, if I were to run lines with, if I for a scene, I
Yeah,
probably wouldn't do it with Michelle. But so I think when we block out the scene to begin with, before the
yeah,
cameras are ready and everything, then we can just go through the lines quite casually. So that
yeah,
helps. That helps, because I can gauge. And this isn't just with Michelle, but with any actor or actress, then it's like I can gauge the tone of voice, the pace, and the general vibe of how they deliver the lines, which informs how I should deliver line back to them. So yeah, when we block out the scene, that makes things a lot easier. If we jump straight in, going in for a take,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that can be a bit tough.
You meditate a lot, and we're I want to get to the meditation, metaphysics. So we're going to weave in and out
Sure.
of the beautiful brother son. But as an actor, I know as a person you meditate a lot, but as an actor, before you get into that type of a scene, do you do a meditation?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like so a bit of my background is well, I meditate a lot, but I work used to work as a counselor and a psychologist. So formerly, I was the psychologist for the Saudi Arabian national taekwondo team, where
Mhm.
I would help them prepare for their competitions. But I also work with a lot of actors, singers, and stage fright is a real thing. It's like whether I'm about to get on stage or whether I'm about to take a driving test, or if I'm a security officer who's about to throw someone out of a building. Those are different scenarios, but our bodies go through the same physiological processes. So then it's like suddenly I've practiced this many, many times, but as soon as the situation is live, this is a real life situation now. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So being able to meditate is so important, where it's like being able to center yourself, keep yourself calm under pressure, because chances are, um, if you've practiced something again and again and again, you're really good at that. But as soon as you're in a situation that requires you to do it, when
Yeah.
there is an audience, everything changes, and the only thing that gets in the way is your own nerves.
Yeah.
So I think danger is real, but how you respond to danger is very much a choice. And I choose to stay calm.
So there are many different ways of meditating, and you talked about this in your videos before, but what type of meditation do you do as an actor before a scene?
I would say it really depends on the scene. So if it's like a scene, if it's just dialogue, for instance, and I'm sat down or I'm stood up, then I will either meditate, sat down, or stood up. So I take a lot of deep breaths. If it's for a fight scene, then I will want to move around just to get my body used to it, because uh, a lot of people don't realize that. When people say, I can't meditate, I can't sit still, and I can't do that. I said, okay, well, what do you enjoy doing? And they say, well, I like going to the gym or I like playing sports. Then I'm like, but actually, then by doing that, that's meditation in motion. You're already doing it without realizing it. And how
Yeah.
you feel when you're meditating is you need to bring that feeling of meditation, that calmness to what you're about to do.
Yeah. It's true, and while we've been on for about 15 minutes or so, and I can tell you that I normally meditate before the interviews because I like to center myself. But I had a bunch of meetings in the morning, and then I was setting things up because I haven't taped a show in a while. People will notice that it's a different background. This is, by the way, my auditioning background, and we'll just keep it at that. So. What I've noticed is that as you and I were talking, there is a stress response, and I am not at peace. I am not relaxed, and the breathing is different. The energy spikes are different. So when you and I are talking, and I'm listening to what you're saying, what I'm doing is I'm grounding myself. I am doing some breathing exercises. I'm not going to take deep breaths because I don't want people to notice, but I'm doing some basic things, and then I am doing some mantras, right? And breathing in peace and relaxation, breathing out stress. So there are all sorts of techniques, and we can do them. Hopefully, we should do that before that. But if you can't, you can do that during, and it's a form of meditation.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And different things work for different people at different times.
True.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it just requires us to maybe leave the room for a second. And every time we walk through a set of doors, have you ever happened to you when you go into another room and you forget why you went in there for? Um,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
not an age thing. So as soon as
It's
we
an
go
energy.
through a set of
Yeah.
doors, our brain resets. I always like to use that as a way to, I can use that to my advantage where I can walk through a set of doors and just calm down now because helps to reset my brain. Okay, take a few deep breaths. Now I'll go back through those doors and just start again.
Yeah, all sorts of mental tricks work. I found that I'm an empath, so I take on a lot of energy, and the larger the environment and the ruder the environment. My son plays basketball, volleyball games, so I'm at the tournaments. If it's an atmosphere in which there are a lot of angry people who are yelling at their children and the referees, and they're not happy about the game, it's a different way that I have to comport myself
Mm,
because there's just a lot of energy that I do not want to take on. So there are all sorts of things that can be done in order to feel comfortable, and I'm using different tricks. And this weekend the Saturday's game worked really well, and I used a certain thing. On the Sunday game, it did not work as well, so I had to use something else. So it's a constant search for answers, but it's also a fun experience.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. The touching of the heads, right? So it's that again, it's one of the things that made me cry. Michelle's character was crying in that scene as well. Um, that type of a scene, right? And that type of an emotion. And then you have to do that more than once because whether it's the touching of the heads or not, I remember myself as an actor and doing a scene, which I find out that my daughter has committed suicide. You know, take one, still trying to find my way. Take two, tears are real. I'm crying. I am in the zone. Take three, take four, take five. I have no tears left. It's and you keep on going because they have to do different coverages and they have to do different shots, and you're like, I have no idea
Mm.
which one they're going to use. um, that scene, how many times did you guys have to do it?
I think maybe about 4 or 5 takes,
Okay,
and
not too bad.
it was, yeah, that was. I think it did get easier as we were doing it,
Okay. Mhm.
but it's a bit of a blur for me because I remember like we are so in the moment right now, and every time felt like the first time.
Yeah.
Although the first time was the craziest one, because I wasn't expecting her to pull me and
Yeah.
touch my head. I wasn't expecting that, and after that, I think it definitely got easier. But it was, yeah, I think just then, just staring in her eyes, and it was quite an intensive moment and very emotional. But also, it's like kind of having to detach as well, where okay, I'm not John, I am Blood Boots.
Mhm.
Okay, I know what's about to happen, so I'm going to stand proud and just accept it. The Sun family will always be my family. My last words, and then you know. I think Blood Boots, he as a character knew what he was getting into. He's been in this game for a long time,
Mhm.
so he probably knew that this is gonna happen at some point, and so I think he had accepted it, and that's something that it was like, okay, that's a proud moment. Um, so that's
Nice.
something I had to keep in mind as well. So it was like the history between them, but also, hey, this is probably going to happen at some point. Let's just.
Yeah. And then the kind of the moment after, right? So you guys wrap that particular scene. Hugs all around. John, that was amazing. Or let's go get some lunch because this was way too heavy and we need to get out of that energy. What was that like?
So Michelle rapped first, and yeah, I think it was wonderful because she said to me, "Hey, that was a really beautiful scene. You should be really proud of yourself. I'm proud of you." And then I became more emotional than I was doing the scene. It
Yeah.
was. But it was amazing, and I rapped as well. Not so long after that, but then I wanted to stay because I felt it was important to see Bruce's reaction, which actually was phenomenal. I think when I saw Bruce's reaction to the body when he looks down, that really got me. And when I rewatched the show, actually, that really gets me every time. And he did an amazing job. And I think that I think when the director, well, when he yells cut and we've got a bit of time to, got a bit of free time, everyone's actually quite chilled out. The actors, the performers were actually pretty chill, which is really
Yeah,
nice. The crew, on the other hand, are having to set up for the next shot. So
yeah, they have no time for anything.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Um, so you spent a lot of time working with Sam and Michelle and Justin as well. Um, and oh my God, I forgot her name. I apologize, Jenny.
Yes.
Um, so in terms of that experience, right? Because and how long were you on set? I think we had 8 episodes or 10 episodes. I forget. How long were you on set, kind of from start to end?
So 8 episodes in. I was in 3 episodes
Right.
but I did 15 days in total, which actually doesn't sound like a lot. 15 days in total, but I was at the studio almost every day, just because there's a gym there, and two,
Right.
the gym is where the stunt department is. So I got to hang out with a lot of the cast members, a lot of the stunt performers as well, who I've worked with on previous jobs. So
Yeah.
yeah, so when I wasn't working, I was always in the same environment, especially as sometimes I would help some of the other cast members with their fight scenes. And coming from a
Mhm.
stunt background, it was really fun for me to do that.
Yeah. And the stunt guys, because again, you've worked with them in the past. You were a stuntman, they were a stuntman. Now you are the one that's kicking their butt. So is there any there shouldn't be any animosity. That's not where I'm going with this, but is there any kind of fun banter of, oh crap, now it's your time, fine, anything like that?
So actually, it was that's the thing. I think when you go in as a stunt performer, it's like you know you're probably going to get beaten up or ugh. So that's part of the job, and it was actually nice for that to not happen during the fight scene that I did.
Yeah.
So for once, I win a fight on camera.
Nice.
But I think for the most part, it was, it's all part of the job, and everyone is just there to help facilitate that. And I'm also very aware that it's them that make me look good, And when you work as a stunt performer, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I have to make you look good. I'll sell the attacks a bit more, if you hit me, it's like, ugh, I'll be very dramatic, So absolutely, it was just a lot of it. And the energy was wonderful between the cast members and the stunt performers. I mean, they are true professionals.
Yeah. Um, I want to come back to something in a second, but in terms of one of my favorite shows, Warrior, that kind of made its rounds and now it's finally ending up on Netflix. Here's hoping that lots of viewership and we're going to get a new season. But Warrior, the whole cast, who I had a pleasure of interviewing many of them, were saying that they loved just being a part of the group, and they all went to South Africa, and every day they would have this, fight camp, and they would all be working out regardless of whether you're going to do any martial arts or not. They were still going through the training. Was there a version of that kind of camp for this show where guys were just training, or was if you're going to be doing some fights, then you're there, otherwise no other actors were participating?
Yeah, that was the case for the most part. So a lot of the actors who had fight scenes were scheduled days to train with the stunt team.
Okay.
Now it's like Justin Chen, who plays
Mhm.
Charles. He would come in on his scheduled days to train, but at the same time, when he finished filming, he
Mm.
would come into the gym afterwards. After a long day of work, he would always train. And I know this because I was there every day. Now, I didn't
Yeah.
work every day, but I was
Mm.
at that gym every day training, and he was always in there. And it was very inspirational for me to see because it doesn't matter how tired he was, or it doesn't matter if it was a tough day, he was always, always, always training. And that consistency was inspirational, especially as, because he's shirtless a lot and you see he's in
Yeah,
fantastic shape. Now,
absolutely.
and when he's eating the most dry food and he's like,
I know it's
to
good,
have that
and
mental dedication, that discipline, the consistency to one, be able to take the nutrition side, but two, continue training. That is so phenomenally inspirational. Mm.
yeah, Justin was awesome, and I heard some of his interviews, and you see that this is the type of guy that's an all-in guy. He's
Yes,
going to go all in, and he's going to work, probably outwork everybody because that's who he is. Yeah, it was very,
absolutely.
very impressive. Yeah.
He is, and you can see it in him when he talks to
Yeah.
you or when he's training. Like we trained together a bunch of times, and it
Mhm.
was like, okay, practicing some drills, some techniques, and you could just see it in his eyes that I need to get this. I absolutely need to get this because it's like he trains in martial arts as well, and some of the
Mhm.
movements will be different to the styles that he does. It didn't matter. It's
Yeah.
like it was. I know some
Mhm.
people might say this is my way of doing it, but for him, no. I need to learn how to do this properly,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
not leaving until I understand this, until my body accepts this movement. And it's that is one of the best actors that you could ever work with. Someone who has that trait where they just want to keep learning. And if you're a nerd about something, if you're a real nerd or a geek about something, it makes you absolutely, you get it. It
Mhm.
makes you want to go that extra mile to push further and actually study more. So Justin and I, we spent a lot of time together training, and it was wonderful. And he'd pick my brains, which was always nice. I mean, so I've been training for now 31 years. And it's like, so when he's asking me these questions, it's like, okay, that's a good question. These are really good questions, and you're asking me about body mechanics. How do I move my body this way from this? And it's like, okay, these are questions you've thought about, and they come from a place of true desire to learn. And you can't teach that, I mean, that is someone who's hungry for knowledge, and I loved it.
No, it's you could see it, and he did move incredibly well because I have a martial arts background. There are martial artists, and then there are enthusiasts. I would be the enthusiast, but I've been enthusiasting and training for 30 something years. So
Wow, wow.
different styles. So I have a lot of vocabulary, and my body knows certain things. And when you were just talking about, you have a certain background and you need to learn a different move. I
Mm,
know, for instance, I started with judo, then I went to karate, then I went to hand combat, then I went to, fencing was thrown in there, then, kung fu styles, then I came to Filipino martial arts. And I know that we're practicing certain moves and my body wants to do something else because my
yes,
body, I don't realize this, but my body knows what it wants to do. And I'm like, okay, no, can't do that. We have to learn this way. And it's this mental exercise that you have to go through, that I am here to learn. We can put the other stuff aside. If I don't want to use the new things later, I won't. But I need to learn it first, and then I'll make a decision. So it's a
absolutely.
tough thing to master.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Because you might get some styles that move this way, other styles that want to move this way, and it's
Yeah.
like that is quite an adjustment to do. And for the most part, it is breaking old habits. And like I've trained in a lot of disciplines where
Mhm.
some of the movements might not complement the other stuff I'm doing, but
Yep.
it's like okay, you want to be an empty cup. It's
Right.
so. You want to be as open as possible. And in fact, my middle name, Xue, literally means to learn in Mandarin. So I'm a student for life, and like you, I would also classify myself as an enthusiast. And it's like I think the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn. You won't master everything. It's not possible. I've tried. It's not possible. So what I'll do is there's something to learn from everyone. It's like even if there's someone who I might be more experienced than, and even if I'm a better fighter than they are,
Mhm.
they probably still know a few things that I don't know, certain body mechanics or even things from their own style that I can learn from. So I have a lot of different training partners who come from different styles, and sparring is one thing, but when it comes to say different takedowns, like judo, for instance. I'm sure you could show me a bunch of judo takedowns that would be new to me, and I would be so open to learning that. And that is something that Justin Chen very much embodies. He embodies the martial spirit and the martial heart.
Yeah, it's a never-ending journey, and that's the beauty of it because it's never ending, and there's so much to learn. Um, you have a really significant martial arts background, and I didn't know. I've seen you before, which I realized afterwards because I'm a martial arts geek. I watch all sorts of videos on YouTube, and I've seen you because I've noticed. I'm like, who is this huge guy that can move? And I didn't put the two and two together until after I saw you in Netflix. So
Oh,
I see you before, but coming at it and watching the show as in this is a really fun guy. I like him as a character, and then you see him fight. I'm like, oh, he knows what he's doing, and I'm like, okay, this is even better. So when that fight was choreographed, did you have any input as to, hey, John, we know you have all of this background and the stunt guys have worked with you before. What do you think? Or it's more of this is what we would like for you to do?
so they definitely had the geography of the fight scene, the structure of the fight scene.
Yeah,
So there's two guys here, two guys there. You got to do this, and then there's this key moment
yeah,
that needs to be in it. So the stunt guys really the department really let me add my own sequence into it and my own flavor into it. So
mhm,
that's a real honor. It's like these stunt guys are some of the best in the world, and for them to actually give me some freedom to be able to do my own thing within the choreography. That was a real privilege. So I'm so happy that they trusted me with that. And it's like I think when it comes to say the first thing that I do is 1, 2, 3, and
yeah,
I hold my
mhm,
elbow. That's something that people know me for in the martial arts world for those types of sequences, especially
mhm.
with Master Wong on YouTube and everything. I thought, I thought I would. That's something that I would like to add in. So I had some input into the sequences, and not everything made it into the final cut, but that's fine.
Yeah, never does. Um,
Absolutely.
the other thing that just from the acting background, I found this a very inventive and a cool thing is that because you cannot, I mean, if they stunt performers, you can have different hair, you can have different lighting, but if you've seen the person already, you've seen the person already. What I love about the brother son is that you had the stunt performers in masks, you had them inside the dinosaur costumes. They gave a lot of freedom to the same team to continue playing, and
Yes.
it was I think it's a brilliant move.
I love that. I think certainly having worked as a stunt performer before, yeah,
Yeah,
like when we have masks or helmets, you can get recycled. Um, you get beaten up here, and then next scene you get beaten up again.
Uh,
Absolutely.
speaking, speaking of beaten up, I think you've mentioned that you in the previous interviews that I've watched from you, you've mentioned that you died at least 15 times, on camera. How Were those deaths different from this one?
So in those ones, it's like, okay, you get beaten up or
Yeah.
and then that's it. Then it moves on very quickly. So you have no emotional attachment. And personally, I actually so my personality and myself, I'm not connected to the character that I play as a stunt performer. I just get beaten up. That's fine. I think with this one because the character has such a history. And he's been established in episode one and episode four, and now part of episode five. It's like, okay, I actually I'm resonating more with this character.
Mm.
So when that happened, it's of course, um, being that that was the third day of filming where they where they did that. I having read the script a lot during when I was at home or in my room in LA, just reading through the script, I already felt very connected to the character. So,
Yeah.
and also because Blood Boots and I are actually in many ways quite similar personality
Mhm.
wise. I think in our employment backgrounds we're very different, but
Yeah.
but definitely I think this one hit me. I think this one was very special to me.
Yeah. So Blood Boots does not have a doctorate. Okay, got it.
You don't know. We don't know that.
That is very true. Hey, maybe since hopefully there is a season two because I love the show. But perhaps they can do something, kind of a bring you back in some capacity as do the history because they're going back. So there is plenty of opportunity to bring you back on. I'm hoping.
I love that you brought that up
Yeah.
because that is actually in episode four. Michelle actually says to Blood Boots, "Back then you weren't so fat,"
Yeah.
and you know, to be honest, I remember because how Blood Boots is in the show is how I have been for years. I was 240 pounds. Maybe sometimes I'd go up, sometimes I'd go down a little. And I thought, okay, if they bring me back for season two for flashbacks or
Yeah.
anything, that is when Blood Boots is in his prime. That's when he is, slimmer. So before the premiere, I spent 16 weeks cutting weight. So I've dropped I believe, about 48 pounds,
Wow.
thereabouts. Oh, 40 pounds. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if there was a season two and they brought me back for flashbacks, I already look the way the character should do in his prime. So,
Okay.
yeah. So as soon as I wrap on any project, any production, I am training for the next thing. But I must say, I'm much happier being lighter. It's my joints are happier. I can walk up the stairs and I'm not out of breath. And so that was something very important to me. So that when I went onto the red carpet for the
Mhm.
show, I already looked the part for if they brought me back.
I love it. I'm not going to ask you any questions that you're not allowed to answer. So
Sure.
we'll save those for off camera. But some of your fans wanted to ask you some questions on a Facebook group, the Father Son Facebook group. If you're not a part of it, please join. That's where we have discussions of this beautiful show. And Jennifer Lynn wanted to mention that she loved your role and loved how the blood boots sacrificing to protect the family, and wanted to find out kind of what is your favorite Asian film that you have seen before. It's a really difficult question because I wouldn't be able to answer it, but see how you can do it.
Ah, man. Okay. I love Jet Li. Any Jet Li film back in the 90s, Fist of Legend, Once Upon a Time in China, all the Jackie Chan films, Dragons Forever with Yuan Biao and Sammo Hung, those are classics. And of course, I loved Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Broad answer, but it's really
Yeah.
tough to narrow it down to one.
So, and I'll follow up to that of another question that I don't think I'll be able to answer myself. But what is your favorite? Or let's do top three. Okay. What are your three favorite martial arts films that you have seen?
Okay, I'd say Fist of Legend with Jet Li, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Mhm.
and mm, mm, you know what? I'm gonna say Enter the Dragon.
It's pivotal, right? It's hard to go wrong with that one. Um, and who is your favorite martial arts actor? Um, and I really mean actor who has been in martial arts films, who is actually a martial artist.
Mhm. It has to be Jet Li. Now, back in 2000, the year 2000, I was part of his fan club in the UK,
Mhm.
and I met him. I was 12, and it was such a. He was filming Kiss of the Dragon in France,
Mhm.
and he flew over to the UK and met his fan club, and we couldn't. I couldn't believe my eyes. We were sat in the cinema, and when he walked out, I think maybe the minute before he walks out, we were so. My brother and I, we were so nervous, you know. And when he walked out, it was like a dream come true. And he was the nicest person. And when he did a martial arts demonstration, you know, there's a video of that, but you actually don't see just how quick he is and how powerful he is.
Right.
So, you know, I can only imagine what it was like to do a fight scene with him because he moves so beautifully. It is like poetry in motion.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would say he is definitely one of my biggest inspirations to get into films for sure. And also as a martial artist, you know, he's very humble and such a nice person, and that's really important because I think you can be good at something, but you should also be humble and nice about that. And I remember showing Michelle a photo of me with Jet Li as a kid, and Michelle said, "That's you? Oh my God!" She said, "Oh, Jet Li was at my house 2 weeks ago." She said, "Oh, you know, next time he's here, you know, I'll invite you over. He would love to see you."
That's
So
really sweet.
I love that. You know, it's I know sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, but I've met three or four of mine, and they have been wonderful people.
That's great to know. But I mean, it's a measure of who you are as well, because you're a difficult person to dislike or not to be happy or nice around. So I think that had something to do with it as well. Um,
Absolutely.
I met Jackie once. I was walking through a Las Vegas hotel, and then I see. Forgive me if you're watching. I forgot his name. He's a martial arts actor. He's been in a ton of martial arts movies, and I see him walking around. I'm like, oh my God, I know you. And then I see Jackie right behind him. I'm like, ah, and that was that moment where Jackie went by, and it's like, oh my goodness. And then
Wow.
in that same hotel we were walking back, and then there's a huge, like, 6'4" martial arts, probably more B movies actor. He's from Eastern Europe. I don't remember his name anymore. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the comments of this video. But I grew up watching all these films, and I remember seeing him, and he was very muscular and very tall, huge guy. And I'm walking by and I'm looking up, and it's him. And I have this thing, and I'm like looking up, saying, go like this. He goes like that, and then I walk past. Like, he is, he looked huge on screen. He is even bigger in real life. And I'm not a small guy. I'm 6 foot tall. So that is a big, big man. That was very, very, very cool to kind of, as a 20-something-year-old walking through the hotel. I saw Jackie, I saw that gentleman, and then I saw this guy. So it was very cool.
That's amazing. It's
Yeah.
dream come true.
Um, you're in UK. Scott Atkins, one of my favorites, is in UK. Have I was going through your IMDb. I didn't see that you have worked with Scott before. Have you had a chance to work with Scott yet?
No, no, not yet. I haven't had that pleasure yet. It's
Okay,
only a matter
hopefully.
of time before our paths cross, but I think we have very few degrees of separation from each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to work with Scott. He's done some incredible things, and above all else, he's supremely talented. He can do so much.
Yeah, and he seems like a really, really good guy. Again, I don't know him off screen, have never met Scott. Scott, jump on my program anytime. But he seems like a really good guy from all the interviews, and the people that have worked with Scott that I know are
Hmm.
all saying the same thing. So that was nice. Another one of Jennifer's questions: what is your favorite music? Because I know you're a musician, but is there a genre that you particularly like, or an
It
artist?
really It really depends on the day. So I enjoy listening to lo-fi, which is nice and chilled out music. But I love Enya. I love Einaudi. And sometimes it's like it really depends on the day. Sometimes I like pop music. I like country music. Um, and to be honest, it's depends on the mood. It's like, what's your favorite food? It really depends on how what I'm feeling right now. It's and for people who don't know me, the kind of food I generally eat at home is very bland. It's quite taste free, but so when I do eat something outside of home, it tastes so
Mhm.
good. So it really depends on the day, and the same thing with music. It's like, uh, I love jazz as well.
John, you and I have a lot of things in common. And the last thing that I want to finish on, which all of these things are a conversation and a number of shows on their own. But I have to touch upon metaphysics because that's been a part of my life since I don't even know. As far as I can remember as a child, I didn't know it, but I was noticing it and I was already feeling it
Hmm.
and trying to understand things. So I continue to discover new elements of it. I know you have a doctorate in metaphysics. Um, in the interviews that I have seen where you talk about it, I've noticed an interesting thing, and I'm not a psychologist, but I've noticed a trend. As soon as you say metaphysics, you immediately kind of try to guide people away from the esoteric stuff into I do it more for counseling and understanding of the consciousness. So, is have you found that people, when they hear metaphysics, they immediately go to esoteric? So you have to kind of guide them towards where you want them to go?
Absolutely. And I'm really happy you asked that question because generally, unless we're talking about supernatural or paranormal activities,
Yeah.
when you, unless you're talking about those specific subjects, as soon as you mention anything like metaphysics, people are like, so, and I say to people, no, no, I mean, metaphysics is generally the study of what is beyond. And,
Right.
but that also But I also think that how we live our lives now, up until we get to what's beyond, is just as important.
Yeah.
So that's why I think one of the reasons why I got into the counseling side is specifically to help myself. And I think you can only help others if you first help yourself. Like, I can only donate money if I first have money.
Mm.
I can only give myself if I first have myself. But when it comes to, say, more esoteric subjects and everything, this is one of my favorite topics of all time. I love it. So when people ask me my views on anything supernatural or paranormal, okay, now we can get into it. Now
Yeah.
I can talk about whatever I want. And I think that's something I'm passionate about. But until someone actually brings it up about anything that's not physical or things that we can't see, then I try to steer the topic away from that.
Yeah, I definitely want to have you on so we can talk metaphysics because there are a lot of aspects that I've had a chance to experience. I know one of the folks that you were talking to, great interviews by the way. He mentioned that he's never had any supernatural experiences. I've had them since I was born. So for me, metaphysics was more of trying to understand of what is happening and how I can use it and So from that perspective, as soon as I saw that part of you, I'm like, yep, my guy. We need to have a conversation. Um, last things. What do people who are just learning about you? I know they've seen the different sides of you, and I suggest everybody to watch different interviews, not just this one with Jon. Learn more about Jon and all of his various parts of this beautiful being that he is. But is there anything that you have not talked about that the fans of the show or people who just want to find out more information about you that you did not mention that you would like to say, here's something that people probably do not know about?
That's a really good question. I think for the most part, it's like what I do for a living as an actor and who I am as a person are very detached. So, um, I think when you said earlier, one of my fans had a question. It's like I have fans. Gosh, like
You do. You have
I,
fans.
I'm very honored because I regard myself to be quite a normal guy. Like I live a very modest life. And it's like I do the same things as everyone else. So I think for the most part, I'm actually just a really normal dude. And I'm just grateful to do cool stuff. And when I look at my colleagues, my co-stars in Brother Sun, for instance, they are all the most wonderful people, phenomenal people, and I'm just grateful to be a part of that journey and to be a part of that family. But I think one thing that I definitely want people to know is, yeah, I'm a real goofball. Like I'm, yeah. It's like I think when it comes to say me as a person, you know, yeah, like I don't take myself too seriously, and I'm just
It's it's important, but it's a measure of your development because as a person who has accomplished so many things in different fields, and you know yourself enough not to take any of that seriously and just to be you. That is a level of mastery that all of us should be striving for.
thank you very much. I appreciate that sentiment. I think I just have a lot of free time and a lot of interests.
That's good to know. Thank you so much, Jon, for coming on to the show, and thanks to everybody for watching. Please go check out Brother Sun. Please look below the video into the comments for all of the links for Jon, and go follow him and tell him because he does have fans and he should hear from them. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and please have me back on. I'd love to talk more with you.
It's absolutely will. All right, take care, everybody.
Take care.